Hey there, and welcome to the Brittany Wheeler Show. Join Brittany as she interviews incredible people whose stories will uplift you and remind you the life you long for is just ahead. Buckle up for an inspirational ride to your best life. Take it away, Britt.
Hey everybody, and welcome to the Brittany Wheeler Show. So excited that you have decided to come back and choose our show and our community to be poured into, to get to hear the incredible stories of the men and women, extraordinary individuals that are just living ordinary lives. And this conversation is going to bless many people. I feel it, not just because I was blessed by her in a coffee shop after many months of trying to get connected, which is a funny story, but also because there's just such wisdom and sweetness that she's going to share. So I'm going to dive in. If you're watching on YouTube, you obviously can see her, but she's a wife, a soon to be, like super soon. She will already be a mom by the time this episode comes out. She's a daughter, a sister, a podcast host herself, an entrepreneur, a leader, a servant heart, a visionary, and a sister in Christ. Please welcome Macy Cole to the Brittany Wheeler Show.
Thank you so much for hosting me. I cannot believe that this day is here because I remember when we were in that coffee shop and we had made the date and the plan after, like you said, many times trying to get together, and it felt so far, and now it is upon us. And as I speak, my little Callie girl in my belly is kicking up a storm. So I think she's excited too.
She is like, Mom, tell him what I have to say. Tell him what I have to say. That was so great. I love that. Well, and this is a great transition to the seg. Also, I'm excited to hear, like, you're going to, this is totally side tangent, but I'm like so excited for this to be a moment where you're like, yeah, like you were in mommy's belly when we were talking. Like, you know, those silly moments that come up. Yeah. You're like, oh my gosh, this episode, this person, this friend, this place, like you were there too. Like, that's so sweet and special.
Yes.
So I'm glad that I think this might be, this is maybe our second. I've only had unborn infants a handful of times or less on the show. Yeah. So you get to be one of them. So thank you, Callie, in the future when you can hear this. So this next part of the segment, I pass to my guest. I love the opportunity. I love that I've created this because I think it's so, when you're listening to podcasts, sometimes you can get lost in who this person is and how do they know the host. And I just love the idea of getting to put back on my guest for them to share either a story of us, how we got connected, or why they said yes to the episode, because it gives the audience a really good place to start. And I believe that actually really helps the story seep in even more because they can understand how we even know each other. And sometimes I don't know my guests very well. Like you and I have only met once in person. I was like, no, we need to have you on the show. But sometimes they're lifelong friends, right? So I'm going to pass to you to share whatever comes to mind.
Yeah. Well, I don't even remember how we got connected. It honestly felt so divine driven and so like Holy Spirit driven. I just remember we were trying to connect, and I am like a very type A business owner, always early type of gal. And you had very clearly stated where we were going to be meeting. So I show up at what I thought was said place, and I'm like, 20 minutes early or something, just enjoying a nice meal before Brittany got there. And then like 5 minutes passed for when we were supposed to meet. And I texted her, I was like, hey girl, like I'm out back, blah, blah, blah. And she's like, oh, well, like I'm actually here too. So I get up, look for her. And then I look back and I realize I'm at the wrong place. And I had another thing after we were supposed to meet that wouldn't have allowed me to drive all the way to where I was supposed to be. And I was mortified because that was really our first time interacting. And I didn't know how to express like this. I never do this. But you were so sweet about it. And so we just rescheduled. And it actually is really nice that happened because I didn't have as much time that first meeting as we ended up getting to have the second meeting. Yeah. And so I think it was just meant to be. And also the timing of things when we finally did get to meet was literally perfect. Yeah. So when we rescheduled and I showed up to the correct place, I just remember walking in and you have such a openness and like inviting like aura and charisma about you that the second we sat down and started chatting, it made so much sense as to, why we were meeting and why we were talking. And it really flowed. And when you had talked about the podcast and things of that nature, after spending literally just 10 minutes with you, I was like, of course, Brittany has a podcast, and I know that this is what you're supposed to be doing. And it's really cool to think about the different people that we know through our own kind of experiences here in Wilmington that ended up connecting us as well, that we may not have even been aware of. But ultimately, it is always the thread and needle of the Lord that brings people together. And this was very much one of those situations. And so here I am today.
I love it. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, it was one of those moments I was like, yep, she's got pregnancy brain. Like, that's it. Like, there's so much, like, it's fine. Like, and I am just also such a firm believer in timing. I can't even, especially this podcast has shown me more than anything the importance of like definitive timing and how
Yeah.
delays or rescheduling or maybe cancellations are literally so intentional and so on purpose that I shared this when I recorded, but I recently had a guest on that she's a dear friend of mine. It's 2 years we've been working for her to be on the show, and
Wow.
just timing in life and the conversation that we ended up having, she wouldn't have been able to have 2 years ago, just because she had to experience the life to be able to sit in it and now share it from a place of I've lived it, I've done it. And that's the beauty of this show, right? Is ordinary people living extraordinary lives. And I believe God knows when the time is right. Sometimes it's really easy, like you and I, like, okay, cool, great, set a date. But sometimes it's like, it's just not right. And that's part of my job as the host of the Brittany Wheeler Show, is to steward that and say, hey, I've met this person. Does it feel right or does it not? And sometimes for me, I've learned that I have to hold back, even though I want to.
Yeah.
I'm just like, ooh, not yet. I'm going to put it in
Yep.
a spreadsheet, because I also am a spreadsheet girly. And so put in my spreadsheet and wait. But yeah, I think if you get upset with all the cancellations and the delays, you're going to spend more time being frustrated than actually seeing the blessings, the blockings, the redirections that are all happening for you and not to you. So
Amen. Amen.
that's literally what I felt about. I was like, it just was so sweet. And like you said, timing and all of that was such a factor in us meeting and getting to talk. And, also, I think it's great too, because like you were having a tough season back then. And so it was really great to have a space where I could talk with you more as you were navigating through pregnancy, but also get the sweet spot that life is going to change again in another month. Right. So we literally have had just the most divine time to get to connect and make this connection before life gets busy and you're navigating what that season looks like. So speaking of babies, let's go back to like baby Macy for a second. I want to know, like, what were you dreaming of becoming? What was childhood like? Fill the audience in on who you were and who you were. Cause I did stalk, mind you. I have your parents are beautiful. Your family is beautiful. I do some serious social media stalking that I get to do under the guise of research. And so I just am excited to hear this part of your story.
Yeah. So, man, my childhood was so special. I always felt a really deep connection to God. I spent a lot of time at my grandparents' house because my parents both had full-time jobs and they were so filled with the Lord. And actually, this room that I'm in right now is going to be Callie's room. But before it was Callie's room, it was my mama's room, because we caretook for her for the last 16 months of her life. And then she passed. But the energy of her home, my mama and papa's home, it's like in this room, and there's just a peacefulness to it. It brings me so close to the Spirit. I would say as a little girl, I was really connected to the Spirit. And that is just a gift that I feel like I wouldn't trade for anything. I was surrounded by love, which I know sadly is not the reality for so many people. And that ended up turning into my ability or my gift that I received, which was meeting my husband. And he also was brought up in a lot of love. Not to say that we haven't gone through our own personal and collective challenges by any means, but just that foundation of love that existed. And so now what we've created from that love is the business that we do. And then we were like, let's bring life into the world. So looking back at like who I was as a little girl, it's really not much different than who I am now, which is always cool to think about.
Yeah.
But I would just say that, you know, little me was full of life, full of joy. Apparently, I said, I love you a lot. I talked to God a lot. Um, and I was also sassy, like had a whole personality. I would say this thing when my parents would like make me mad. I would say, I be buff. And I was like 2 years old saying that. And they're like, is she like cussing us out as a 2 year old?
In a nice way.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, ma'am, no.
So
And so
funny.
it's like kind of cool to think back. I haven't thought about that in a really long time, but just the rawness of who we are when we're young, how that if we can stay connected to ourselves. I think I got away from her for so long, and
Mm.
thinking back, I think I'm the closest to her that I've ever been, but now as an adult. And then thinking about that we're going to bring new young life into the world and really getting to witness, you know, her little personality before the world starts to shape it. So
Mm.
that's a
It's
really fun
so
question.
sweet. It's so sweet. Were you always dreaming about being an entrepreneur?
So when I was little, I always wanted to, like, I always played games of jobs. So like the main job that I always played was teacher. I think I just really enjoyed like reading to my students. I also enjoyed disciplining them. My papa was like, Macy, like you make up this game. You don't have to like discipline your students. And apparently I said, well, I like to. Um, but my mom was an entrepreneur and I've always been like fiercely independent. And so I think the entrepreneurial path and specifically health, I was really sick as a young girl and I continued to be sick all through high school and into college. And then I found, you know, holistic routes and things of that nature. So I think entrepreneurship and health were always a big part of my life, as well as faith. And so thinking about what I do now, I, you know, teach for a living. I instruct yoga, Pilates, bar, things of that nature. But owning a business, you also have to be a leader and teaching healthy habits and all of those kinds of things. So all of the little skills that I was developing as a young girl are literally just a reflection of who I am now. And my parents always laugh about it. It's like, you've just been preparing for this, you know, your whole life type of thing.
Mm. And you could say to your papa, I do have to discipline, actually. I do.
Yeah.
They're
It's
not
a
my
good thing I
students. They're my.
practiced that younger times.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Like I was being prepared for this. It's so interesting too because I'm watching. Have you watched the Jonathan and Jesus Prime Video series?
No.
Okay, I watched episode one, so like just that's how far in. But it's so interesting because it's the gentleman Jonathan Ramu. I'm gonna mess his last name. Sorry, buddy, but
Yeah.
he plays Jesus in The
Yeah.
Chosen,
We
and
watched that.
it's his whole story and like just like this documentary style. Excuse me, where he shares his life a little bit and he just shares what it's like. That kind of really like it just for me it just shows also what's wrong with the world that we like will put so much pressure on a man that we know is not Jesus, but like we
Oh, yeah.
like it's just it's crazy. But
It's because
that
he plays that role so well.
yeah.
It's actually unbelievable.
Well, and this is what I want to tell you is that in the episode he talks about how growing up like he would like build a cross in his backyard and be Jesus. And so,
Whoa.
yes, I know. And so 20 years after starting his acting career, he played
Whoa.
Jesus. I
Whoa.
know. I know. So you playing, right?
Yeah.
Like teacher and just
Mhm.
entrepreneur and jobs was just a
Mhm.
foreshadow. And
Mhm.
similarly to me, when I was 2, I was singing on stage the Barney song in front of all of the kids that I danced with and their big siblings, which weren't their siblings, but like, the bigger dancers. I
Mhm.
had like, I've always been attracted to the stage, but got pulled away from, to go into athletics and pulled away from drama
Mhm.
and all things. And like, foreshadow, right? That like, that is
Mhm.
my passion. That is something that I'm excited to do. That is something that I get to do here with the podcast. So, yeah, foreshadow for you for
Yeah.
sure.
It's so
Incredible.
cool. It's the seeds that, you know, are in us are planted, I think, from the time that we're in the womb. Like Callie has a very specific personality, and I'm not making this up. Anytime I'm doing Bible study or we're at church or like this, podcast, and Jesus and faith are in the mix, she starts stirring around. Like I can
I love
tell that
it.
loves the Lord. And I can't wait to share that with her, throughout her life. But I really do think that those seeds are planted, and then we have people in our life that water and nourish those seeds, and we also, when we discern our own spirit, water and nourish those seeds. And I think it's a really smart practice to look all the way back,
Mm.
because a lot of times that can tell us a little bit more about who we are than right now, especially if life has, beaten and battered you and molded you into this thing that you aren't, which is why I think so many people are unhappy, because they get disconnected from their origin.
Yeah,
Um,
so
it
good.
makes so much sense.
I just did a recording earlier with a friend of mine who just one of the first questions I asked her was like, what was your younger version of yourself and like how has that shaped who you are? And she'd come out of addiction. She's been healed and by the Lord, and she walks with the Lord and all these different things. It's incredible. But she
Hmm.
talks about like part of her story of healing is healing and going back to the younger version of herself and
Yeah.
going back and actually taking claim and lighting up truth and seeking wholeness and healing for that young girl, right? We so often think that our childhood stays in childhood, and then we have this part of ourselves that's always broken, and so we
Yeah.
try to move forward as adults and we wonder why we're not whole, or we wonder why our relationships are mirroring that of our past, or we wonder why we're stepping into things that are not good for us. And it's like, well, you can't just leave that little boy or girl behind, right? Because
Right.
so much of that is part of your internal dialogue and internal mindset.
Hmm.
So I love that you said going back to your origin, because I think that's like fundamentally true for anybody, for anything,
Hmm.
even
Hmm.
for you, recognizing, yeah, I got to go back. I went back to like some of my origin as it relates to being a mom and being a wife and all
Yeah.
these things. Doesn't mean your childhood was horrible, right? But you still even recognize there is importance in going back.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, they don't, and then they just keep
Right.
like, it's it's fascinating.
Yeah. I agree. And there's a lot of wisdom to be gained there. And if there is, I feel like my foundation was really solid. And so my issues became when I started going to school and facing adversity. And I had only been in environments where I was accepted and loved. And so it was really challenging to be exposed in environments where all of a sudden you're not accepted, you're not loved. That was confusing to me because I
Mm,
only knew the other, and that's such a gift and such a blessing that God gave to me. But the thing is, I didn't realize when I was younger, the kids that could only accept me so much or like show so much love to me are just emulating what they were receiving at home,
yeah,
and so that was their capacity. And then
yeah.
you're in this mixing pot of people coming from all these different ways and backgrounds and whatever else, and you're just trying to navigate it as a kid.
Mm,
But when you can look back, you just have so much compassion because you can clearly see, oh, these people didn't know what love was that I know.
yeah,
And that's why Troy and I created what we did, because we believe that the suffering in this world can be eradicated if people know that they're loved without condition. And ultimately, that love is displayed no better than through our Creator, who created a plan at the very beginning, despite our own actions, to sacrifice himself through his son so that we could live eternal life with them. And I think God gave me a heart for him at a young age, because it really does feel like my mission in this lifetime to navigate what it means to love without condition. And that's been hard. that's a
yeah,
hard
yeah,
that is a hard thing to do.
yeah,
Humans are uh we're half creature and half spirit, and the creature side is really hard to love sometimes within ourselves and others.
yeah. I think it's beautiful also just recognizing that like your challenges were not that you weren't loved or were not the trauma that came from childhood, but the fact that you had to learn to love despite, right? Like at a
Yeah.
young age, learning how do I show love in situations where love doesn't exist or love
Yeah.
light isn't there? And
Yeah.
a lot of times, people are on the other side of that, right? They're on the broken side of things. And so I is there any particular situation that comes to mind for you that is such a good example of like what that looked like for you in a season, recent,
Well,
past?
that's like, that is my chief challenge in every situation. Betrayal has been like a really common theme in my life.
Mm,
And in just chatting with you, I think really what it is, I, the foundation of my environment was always built on trust, love, um, respect, like no agenda. And so, especially being raised in Boone, North Carolina, at the time it was a really small town, you go into every environment just fully trusting with a completely open heart. And I had no boundaries and no concept of people that have ill will or jealousy or whatever.
yeah.
And looking back, I think I would be a very easy person to be jealous of because I was so happy and so vivacious and so full of life, and really didn't like get upset about things because things are so good at home, and with my cousins and my aunt and my aunts and uncles and all that. And so I think what it did is it invited people into my life that did come from broken backgrounds and appreciated the type of love that I was freely giving them because that was just my baseline. I didn't know any other way. But unfortunately, they also didn't know any other way. So, like, if their baseline is don't trust, is like betray in order to get ahead,
Mm,
or like the above or below, like, oh, she's better than me, let me get really close to her so I can get on that level. Oh, now I'm on that level, I'm actually better than her, so let me push her down. Or in order for me to have what she has, I must take. Usually when you're not I came from an abundance background, I attracted scarcity mindset backgrounds. So it was a lot of environments and friendships and situations where they were welcomed freely into our home, like treated like our own. And then right when they got comfortable or they saw an opportunity to get ahead or whatever it was, um, there was betrayal involved, or um, manipulation and things of that nature, because unfortunately that is their baseline.
yeah.
And so what I've learned is people just loving somebody isn't enough until they learn how to genuinely love themselves. And if they did not come from that environment,
Mm,
then they have to rewire their entire baseline. And no one can do that for them but themselves. Like the strategies that helped me be successful in my environment were the more you love, the more you receive love. But the strategies in other environments that aren't like that, that didn't learn that, are eventually going to come out in things like friendships and professionally and all of that.
yeah.
Um, and I went through a period of time when I got disconnected from myself where I hated myself because enough of these things had happened where I started to think I was the problem. And that's when like shame was birthed and all these things. And then, God revealed to me that I'm loved not for who I am and what I do, but because I'm created by Him.
Yeah.
And that like broke me free. But it has forced me to learn boundaries. It has forced me to learn you can love others and show love, but that's a way different thing than trusting somebody with your
Mm,
innermost things. And you think about Jesus, he had 12 disciples. One of them betrayed him. Even one of the ones that he revealed himself in the transfiguration to denied him at his most need. Out of 12 men, only one was at the base of the cross in his highest need. To me, that shows that 1 in 12 people are going to have your back. Like, and that's Jesus's statistic. And so my lessons were like, you've been given so much love, so you need to pour back. And in pouring back, you can't expect others that haven't been given the same level of love as you to be able to provide that back to you.
mm,
You actually need to be the person that chose them, the other way, even if it's at your own discomfort or your own pain or, whatever. And that's really been like, I think, my cross to bear in this lifetime, which when I say out loud, it's like, I feel so blessed for that, because even though it hurts and there's been really hard things, even just this week, I could tell you things that would like blow your mind. I also just wouldn't trade the upbringing and the foundation that I've been given, because now I get to pay that forward to my little one.
Yeah.
And I think it's sad people have to search their whole life just finding that from one person.
Yeah. Like everything you said resonated with me for so many reasons. Like, and I think there's a level of like, I think there's just been an amount of prayer over me and protection over me, that has just always kept me a degree separated from the pain that I should have experienced more like harshly as a child.
Mm.
And so when you're talking about just being kind and loving always, and my childhood was still broken, right? Very broken and very traumatic. But there was something about me, and I have interviewed middle school friends and high school friends, and during the darkest times where I was bullied, like cyber, like messed up cyber
Mhm.
bullying. Um, and I wasn't necessarily in the same situation that you were, right? Where it was abundant from home. I was loved, right? But there was still so much challenge that goes with that. But there was something about when I look back in those days that like I still showed up like
Mhm.
with light and love and positive attitude and energy that like definitely shouldn't have matched sometimes like
Yep.
what I was experiencing. And so as that transitioned into young adulthood, right? Like I could go under the guise of like bullying and people like would attack that because again, like it's I just was being authentically myself and that was enough of a threat, right? But then going as to be a young adult, like what you're saying, I've had to learn, even like with my business, I was burned by a business partner and like, just like a bunch of different things that because I trust people, because I believe in people, because I see the good in everybody, it's so easy for me to offer myself. But it's been a lot of years of not only like learning boundaries secularly as I before I knew God, but then allowing the spirit to be my guide and be my like yes or no man, right? Of like, should
Yeah.
I or should I not? And putting in, I think this is just healthy for anybody, but like putting in, stop gaps to like keep
Mm.
yourself from falling in those places. So for example, like this is something so trivial, but like I was a yes girl for a really long time, and not because I want to do everything, but because I love seizing every opportunity because you just never know like what's gonna come, right?
Yeah.
But like that, I don't need to be at everything, and so I started saying this line to like put in the habit of setting that boundary. And someone would say, "Oh, you should blah blah." I say, "You know what? That sounds awesome. Let me look at my calendar and get back to you." And that was the
Yeah.
beginning of many other things that I've put in place to really give myself the time to
Yeah.
determine if that person, that place, that relationship, that event is really for me, right? And then I can
Mhm.
take that back because I I understand like I am
Mhm.
usually the punching bag or the target, especially spiritual warfare. And because I do trust and I do put myself out there that way.
And I love that. Like those are such good strategies. I've spent so long being a people pleaser, and obviously that doesn't go away because I wrapped my worth. I hated being disliked so much by anyone, even if they didn't actually dislike me. They just were, I don't know, whatever that thing was that they were feeling
Yeah.
towards me. I wanted to be away from that feeling so much that I remember at a very young age, I was like, okay, if I act perfect all the time, then no one can dislike me.
Wow.
And what that ended up doing is creating an even deeper wedge
Wow.
between me and others because it makes you unrelatable and it makes you literally enslaved to behavior. And so now getting away from all of that and realizing I'm loved not based on what I do or who I am, but because I'm created by our creator that loves me, it's like a lot of those stop gaps, like you were saying, of having the moment of pause because my knee jerk reaction is to please. And then, like you said, like pausing and having an already prepared line so that your old knee jerk reaction of like, yeah, of course, is, oh, that sounds amazing. Like, let me think about it. And
Yeah.
it's just so funny how those little things make such a big difference in our adult life.
Yes, yes. And because, I want my yes to be yes, right?
Yeah.
Like it's I don't, yeah. yes right now, or I will, or I'll show up, or I'll do it is so like, it blows my mind, Macy, how many people are shook when I show up and do what I say I'm going to do. In fact, that has been a very threatening thing in this city for some people towards me, because I'm the girl that says, oh yeah, oh, I committed to that thing, oh, I'm going to show up, do it 150%. Oh, you didn't actually think that I was going to. Oh, interesting. Okay. So, like,
Yeah.
it is actually becoming a threat to a lot of people, because it is showing them their own insecurity in the process of
Yeah.
like, wow, I'm an entrepreneur, or I'm this, or I'm that. And Brittany's here. So what's my excuse? Right. And then here we
Yeah.
go. That projection of they're not equipped, or they're not whatever, has nothing to do with me. Right.
Yeah.
But I want my yes to be yes. 100%.
Yep. Yep. Reliability is our number one core value at Emotion, because we realized that is such a rare trait. If you are reliable, you also have integrity and character and humility and a servant's heart. But if you are not reliable, chances are you are also not humble and mindful of people's time and willing to serve. And
Yeah.
so I think that's the chief marker that I look for in people in my life these days. Because if you're the type of person that's going to show up, you need to surround yourself with others that are going to do the same.
1000%. And also there's other things that so I'm a natural connector, and I have also, like, it's really easy for me to want to help people, but at what
Mm-hmm.
cost, right? Especially as an entrepreneur, especially when I was a small business advisor, I wanted to give everybody the world, because I was like, you can do it. Like, why not? And I realized, like, as much as I wish that heavenly dollars paid rent, they don't. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was giving a lot of people free stuff, and
Mm-hmm.
were not doing, there was no skin in the game for them. And
Mm-hmm.
so in this season, as it relates to entrepreneurialism, when it comes to connecting people, I just had a conversation the other day with someone in a grocery store, and I was like, hey, because normally I would have offered the connection. I'd been like, oh, let me connect you. But instead I said, hey, let me know if you want me to connect you with that person. I think they're blah, blah, blah,
Mm-hmm.
blah, 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 blah. This will be amazing. But you let me know if you want that connection. Because here's the
Yeah.
thing that I've realized in business: when you're integrity and you're reliable, most people aren't willing to do what's necessary to get what they want, or they'll spend a lot of time figuring it out themselves instead of taking the advice of someone trusted or someone that has experience. And so myself in general, and probably you, have been burned by that, right? Because you want people to do well, you want people to succeed, you want to help people, but so many
Mm-hmm.
people aren't willing to do the bare minimum. And so even when it comes to connecting, I stopped giving it out for free, and I put some skin
Yeah.
in the game. If you want to know where those people are, you let me know, and I'll
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I'll
And
connect.
everything that we're saying is literally boundaries, which is really cool.
Yeah, so cool. This is so random, but in my stalking, I noticed that you had an old Instagram. Was that new Instagram part of that rebirth of, like, identity?
I wish.
Okay.
My old Instagram got hacked.
Okay. I wasn't sure.
And
I
I
was like, did
couldn't
I catch
get
a good
in for
timing?
like 2 or 3 years. I was so
Oh
bummed.
gosh.
And basically, what happened was it got hacked. Both our business and my personal Instagram got hacked. And then I had changed my phone number. So the way to get back in was through that. I had to wait like 2 or 3 years for my old phone number to actually be given to somebody. And then I texted them and I was like, hey, any chance like you got an Instagram verification code? And they were like, yeah. And they sent it to me and I was able to get back in. But by then I had already done another one, and so I just named that the old one so that people wouldn't get confused. But I was like so sad about it. But it was crazy because that happened. My last post was one of my fur babies passing away,
Mm.
and I was just about to go and sit with ayahuasca, which some viewers may know what that is, some may not. That's a whole different can of worms. But it was an interesting timing to me because so much transpired and was birthed on the other side of that experience, whether like it's not something I recommend by any means, but it just happened like that for me. So I'm sure it probably looks that way. And then I didn't want to get rid of that account because there's so
Yeah.
many good memories
Yeah,
on
no,
it.
and I just wasn't sure, because I was like, what a great way to start something new. Because I was hacked as well. And I look back and I'm like,
Yeah,
huh, the timing of it all seems very
it was so crazy.
interesting.
That's
Yeah.
how I feel. Yeah, I was hacked. That was like the thing that got me into the new thing, which once you realize every time you get a detour, it is always a blessing if you ride it all the way through.
Yeah. I also would love for you, this is a little side tangent, but I think it's important because this podcast, is not for, this podcast is enjoyed and loved by people that know God, but for the most part, a lot of my listeners don't.
Yeah.
And I think it's important to also just have, for those that maybe do, know God and they hear words like ayahuasca, they're like, what is that? And some, unfortunately, they're, the hackles go up on the back of their neck and they don't really understand. And that's a whole other podcast about judgment and things like that. Right. But I would just love what is for you to share, like, what is ayahuasca? And then ultimately, as it relates to your faith and as it relates to being so spirit filled, what are you grateful for that experience? And maybe what would you do differently if you could go do it again or not do it again?
So, it got like really popularized before, like way after it was already known in my family. But my brother was an Ayurvedic practitioner, which if you don't know what that is, he basically uses elements of the earth to heal our bodies. And he helped me through a season of like panic attacks and anxieties just by getting what's called your constitutions balanced. And so because he was in that world of medicine, and medicine being things like herbs and the foods that we eat, he was also exposed to what is now known as the plant medicine world, but in a genuine way. So ayahuasca is a plant medicine, and it is basically two different plants in the Amazon that they boil together. It's been practiced for hundreds, if not thousands of years. And the specific tribe that we practiced this medicine journey with was the Shipibo tribe. And they're originally from Peru, but we went to Costa Rica. So it was something my dad and my brother did. And I was like, good for y'all. Best of luck. No.
Yeah.
And they came back, and there was just a lot of personal stuff going on at the time that had inspired them to go do that. And I saw some really big, cool changes and shifts. And whether I liked it or not, a seed was planted. And next thing I know, 2 years later, I'm going down to the jungle of Costa Rica and sitting with this medicine, which was so crazy because I had never done anything like this ever. Never thought I would, never wanted to, but was very called to go. And it was an indescribable experience that opened me up to what I would say are the veils of the unseen world. And how the Bible talks about like our war is not against flesh and blood, it's against the unseen world. And so you sit in the darkness. The ceremony starts around like 7 p.m. and it lasts all the way till, I mean, you can still be on the medicine till the next day at noon, depending on how strong the dose is. But usually the ceremony wraps up around 3 a.m. It's very long. And you're in this Maloka with the Shipibo tribe singing these things called Icaros, and it activates the medicine. And next thing you know, you're being taken into these different like literal dimensions. Like it may sound crazy to some people, but it was so much more real than me sitting here in this place that I'm at right now. The colors were a lot more vivid. We could interact telepathically, just everything. So ultimately what I went down thinking that I was going to come back and like renounce a lot of what you would call like Southern ways, if that makes sense. Because I was just about to start a numerology and astrology aspect to my podcast. And I was like, I've been studying those things for over 12 years. And I thought I was going to be like going down more that direction and bringing together some of these other philosophies like Ayurveda, astrology, numerology, all of that into my faith. And instead, when I landed on this soil, I got American flag fingernails. I renounced astrology, numerology, all of that stuff. And I was like, I love the Lord. I am only reading the Bible. And that is the truth. While I was on that medicine, some absolutely insane things took place that I don't even think if I were to say out loud, people would believe me. So I'm just not even going to go there.
Yeah.
But it made me realize what is the truth. And basically when I came home and God was having me renounce all of these things, and I was so frustrated because I'm like, I've dedicated so much of my time to this. Like, you're who called me to go sit with ayahuasca. You're the one that like made me feel like I could get into numerology and astrology. Like, I thought I was taking this to people that may not hear of you otherwise. And God just gave me this vision of a golden line coming straight from my heart directly up to heaven. And there was all these little splinters in the golden chain. And the splinters were like astrology, numerology, like you can go down all these paths, right? And it said, why study and mess with my creation when you can commune directly with the creator? And it just floored me. And so ayahuasca took me to the depths of this most sheer terror and fear you could ever feel, like the level of evil that I had to sit with for an entire night and be exposed to, and what I was shown. It haunts me to this day. And for those reasons, I just don't think that many people are equipped to open themselves up to that world, because when you open yourself up to that world, you don't know where you're going and what dimension you're being placed in. Yeah. And I was placed in a really, 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 really dark one. Like literally the valley of the shadow of death, and everything that takes place there. It was so scary. And then God revealed to me his goodness through that. But I think ultimately what I learned is I am embodied in this flesh. I look the way I look. I live where I live. I think the way that I think, and I exist in this time period because I am meant to play by the constructs of what is happening right now, based on who I am, where I live, what I look like, what my background is. Even though my soul is eternal and may have vast knowledge and all of these different other things that may have been important at some point, not saying reincarnation, just literally like the journey of the soul. Yeah. Who I am right now needs to be hands and feet on the ground, eyes with what I am being given to see. And the things outside of this dimension that are exposed to me need to come from the Holy Spirit and the Holy Spirit alone. Now, I am not from the Shipibo tribe. I do not live in Peru. This medicine is not in my lineage. So their experience and their journey and their calling is completely different than somebody that lives in the United States and the South and is who I am. So I don't think this is like a one size fits all, but I did realize we are tampering with things that we may not have an idea of what level we're tampering with them. Yeah. And the way that medicine used to be taken is the shaman took the medicine and then through the Ikros would reveal within us our own darkness. Now, I look at photos of me when I first came back from that trip and I literally like am glowing. It definitely cleansed out every aspect of who I was. And it gave me an ability to write on a level I'd never been able to write, like launch a podcast, all this creative energy. But I know for me, what it did for me is it solidified what is true, what is not true, and how thin that veil is and how slippery that line is if you choose to walk that path. And I have no interest in doing that ever again. But being pregnant is the closest thing to being in ceremony I have ever experienced. And now that I have context for ayahuasca, being pregnant terrifies me because I'm like, please don't let me go back to where I was.
Yeah. Gosh. Yeah. Well, and I ask because I find it fascinating. I was telling you that I watched the Aaron Rodgers documentary, and what I saw from that really was, and again, I think if you believe in Jesus and you want to judge people, then you need to go to church or read the Bible, because you're obviously missing something. And it is not our job to judge people's convictions, right? Like Romans, I've been having this conversation a lot of like, the Holy Spirit convicts people differently. It's not our job to judge. We are to love our neighbor and love God. The 10 commandments fall underneath all of those 2 rules. That's it, right? Whether you wear skirts or you cut your hair or you do ayahuasca, it is not up for us to decide whether or not that's a thing. And Western Christianity has been made up of a bunch of BS gray area rules that aren't even within the Bible, right? So the reason why I thought it was fascinating was because, and I wanted to share more, is I equally think there's a lot of people out there, twofold to this. Number one, are so uncertain of what they believe and what is real that they will go to a place like, let me try ayahuasca to really find the goodness of God and the truth. Then there's the other people who believe that doing that means that you're like serving other demons and that you are not believing in God, like, and the judgment that comes from that, right? And so I think that there could potentially, I'm calling out my listeners, love you, but I think there potentially could be both here, right? And I think it's important for them to understand in the context of not only what is that, what you experienced. And like, I'm grateful for you going into that detail, because number one, people that are potentially questioning it get to hear like, oh, okay, so it actually strengthened her faith. And so all the things that maybe I was thinking of what it was actually going to do are incorrect, right? And because ultimately it was God that called you there anyways. And that's, I mean, Aaron Rodgers, if you're listening, sir, I think the same for you, whether you want to admit it or not. I believe the Holy Spirit would call you to ayahuasca in those places because you're so uncertain of where he is that he's literally taking you on a whatever that is, like oh my gosh, like
a hero's journey.
To actually prove that God is real, right? And so I'll be here, Aaron Rodgers, when you want to talk about it after you're done and you've confirmed that he's real. But I just think both of those stand true, and I think it was a great opportunity for us to dive into that a little bit.
And I will say this, like, I'm very stubborn. God knows his creation, and I learn by doing things and then knowing for myself, ooh, that's not the direction I need to go. And so if you are somebody that already has the discernment of like, that's evil and I don't want to do that, that is your truth, and you might not have to experience some things that other people do. Do I think that that is something that should be exposed to people that don't live that shamanistic and Shipibo lineage tribe lifestyle? Probably not. But again, people have to figure that out on their own. And ultimately, it is not a recreational drug. It is the most intense thing that I could have ever imagined could happen to me in this human experience. And if you do it one time, it's not one of those things that you're like, let me try that again. It's not.
It's intense. And it's interesting. It's interesting that you're like, the closest thing to ayahuasca is being a mother.
The process of being pregnant has it has been very trippy. And very out of body for me. And I obviously wouldn't have had that context had I never done that. But I think there is a thinner veil when you are dealing with the amount of hormones that we're dealing with, when we're dealing with creation being formed in this vessel that is your body. And ultimately, plant medicines to me open up access to parts of our mind and our hormones and our interaction with this lived space, our senses, that heighten it to a degree. Well, when you're pregnant, that is physiologically what's happening. And so at first I was really like frustrated that I had done ayahuasca, because I really didn't want the context of that compared to being pregnant. But ultimately it's just become a ride that I'm on, and you just have to put your hands up and trust.
Well, I also think that it's okay. And this is the other thing I wanted to say, because I do have a mom question for you, but I also wanted to say that it's like okay to say that like pregnancy sucks, and that it's hard, right? Because I just don't think we say it enough as women. I think that like the beauty of like the hard happens and then you're like, it's so worth it. And that seems to be the only part that women talk about. And then they go through it and they're like, wait a second, while we need to be like, you've already shared on the show, like grateful and so excited, I think we equally need to be okay with saying that it's hard, because that I think also is what has brought us to generations and decades and centuries of insanity claims, right? It's because we're producing, and giving birth in double digits, right? 200
Yeah.
years ago. And then it's like, well, it's okay. No, it's not okay. Like, your body is like doing crazy, crazy things. And so I know you're
Yeah.
passionate about health and wellness. I know you're passionate about women's health. And so I really believe this also potentially is going to be a catalyst for you in the future to be able to support women and to be an advocate for women who are like, oh my gosh, what am I doing? This is crazy. Is this crazy? My friend said they love it, but I don't think I love it. I'm not sure. Do I want to get pregnant again? Like, just being able to desensitize that whatever you feel is okay. And that, like, it doesn't have to be what your best friend felt or what your mom felt, or, and I think that can be challenging.
Totally. Yeah, I think everyone's tested in a different way. Some people love pregnancy, have a really hard labor. Some people love pregnancy and labor, have a really hard postpartum. Some people have hard all of it. Like, pregnancy has been one of the toughest seasons of my life, because on top of all of these changes and just the experience of how my body has interacted with having all of these hormones, we've also had some really intense struggles that would have been hard even if I wasn't pregnant. And so basically, for me, my experience with being pregnant, I went off birth control in 2013 because it just never felt right for me. Being pregnant has felt like me taking 100 birth control pills every single morning and just basically being like, let's see what happens. Let's see what happens today.
Yeah. So in what ways do you see potentially God using motherhood and pregnancy in a way for you to help people in this next season?
Man, because I haven't gone through labor or postpartum or even being a mother to a child earthside yet, I think I don't even have anywhere close to the full story of that question. But at least from the pregnancy standpoint, to your point that you were mentioning, everyone has always asked, like, how are you feeling? And they like do it like that. And a lot of times I'm like, I mean, you've been pregnant. You know how I'm feeling. I'm feeling crazy and hot and bloated and uncomfortable and equally excited to meet this beautiful blessing, but also like so perplexed by this whole experience. And some people are like, oh my gosh, thank you for saying that. Like, pregnancy was awful. Other people are like, oh, okay. And like super uncomfortable that I was just answering their question honestly. And then other people are like, really? Like, I loved pregnancy. And I say to them straight up, I'm like, what part?
Yeah,
Like,
tell me.
I actually need to know.
Yeah.
And what I've come to find is like, I'm a very active person. I am very healthy. I'm used to like moving my body in any direction that I want. I'm used to doing 45 things between the hours of 5 a.m. and 10 a.m. And that's just the beginning of my day. So my hardest lesson has been to be content and slowing down. And God has been trying to teach me that for a very long time. It's so uncomfortable. I do not like it. So I think one thing that I can offer to women, moving forward that are pregnant is when I come up to them and I'm like, hey, how's this season been for you? Not like, how are you feeling or how's it going or don't you just love it? It's like, hey, how's this season been for you? And holding space for them to be like, this has been the most miraculous time in my life. And for some of those women, I think it's people that maybe weren't as healthy and are now taking prenatals every day and making sure they're getting enough water and enough rest and feeling like, for me to have this amount of blood and just like stuff in my body is so
It's like you're wearing a
uncomfortable.
suit and you can't take it
Yeah,
off.
it is.
Yeah.
But for other people that have like the pregnancy glow, it's almost like they've never felt what it felt like to be healthy.
Right.
So for them, the baby is giving them maybe what I feel like at baseline. For me, it's too much. I'm so like, I can't even do my hands in a fist because of how swollen and tight my fingers are and my joints hurt. Like, it's just too much for this body, even though I was built for it. But I think what I really want to offer up to moms is holding space for them and not just letting it be this fleeting thing like, oh my gosh, congratulations. Aren't you so excited? Like, how are you feeling? Da, 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 da. It's like, hey, like, how's this season of life going for you? And give them that space to be like, this is the best thing ever. Or like, it's awful. I don't know what to do. And I can be like, well, girlfriend, I was the same
Same.
exact way. And when I hear that, I hear people say like, "Oh my gosh, being a mom's the best, but don't worry, like I did not like being pregnant." That makes my shoulders
Yeah.
relax. It's like, "Oh, I'm not a bad person for feeling this way, or I'm not weak or whatever." It's just everyone's experience is so different.
Yeah.
And one of my best friends is pregnant right now. She's due 5 days after me. She looks like her normal self with a little basketball on her in her stomach. And I had somebody come up to me the other day and they're like, "Oh wow, really eating for two, are we?" And I was like,
No, they did not.
"Yeah." Oh, you would be shocked at what people like say. And I was like, "Ooh." And I literally said to them, I was like, "You know what? I am really swollen and I am really puffy and I am probably twice the size that I was before I was pregnant, but I actually, like, not that you're wondering or asking, like, can't eat nearly as much as I used to, and the quality of what I have to eat is so high. This all of this that you're seeing to make you make that comment is not from me eating for two. It's literally my body responding to all of the changes that have happened. But thanks for noticing." Like, and that's the thing that people also don't realize is like the comments that people will make, like, "Oh wow, you're about to pop, aren't you?" And it's like, "Well, I actually still have 8 more weeks, but thanks for making me think that I'm too big." And my other friend would share that her child was measuring small, and so somebody asked, "How far along are you?" And she said it, and then they're like, "Oh my gosh, like, is that okay that you're like that small?" And so that's the other thing I've realized is, pregnant moms are going through a lot. It is an emotional roller coaster just to get through that first trimester and be told like that your baby is going to, make it to second trimester is in and of itself a feat. Just even getting that positive pregnancy test is like feels like it will never happen. And for some people it doesn't, so the pregnancy journey has really opened my eyes to just how sensitive we need to be to what we're saying to these people,
Yeah.
because by and large every single one of us is doing the best we can, and ultimately when your body takes over, it's really not about how much you're eating or not eating or whatever. It's just the natural process that your body's going to have, and it's going to be different even from baby to baby with the same
Yeah.
mom. But it has floored me, some of the comments that people like have had the audacity to say. And you just kind of sit there and you're like, "Ooh, like how do I even where do I go from here?"
Yeah. Oh, I'm so sorry. That's just like, yeah. And now I'm like, even reflecting on myself, like, oh my gosh, like, if I said anything that would upset anybody, because I'm constantly like, I usually, for me, I just stay in my safe zone of like always a positive comment, always something like,
Yes.
and nothing about, it's like, love your outfit, love your dress, love your makeup, things that
Yes.
I know
Yeah.
that, especially pregnant women, it was a lot to get there. Let alone a mom already, right? It's a lot to
Yeah.
get there. And so I think if you're listening and you're like, holy shit, like, what do I say? How about just focus on something that's very, like, potentially trivial to you, but very important to that woman on the other
Yeah.
side. And like, you don't have to touch anything else. You can just let it be. Like, you
No.
don't,
Even just saying like, "Hey, I can only imagine how tough this pregnancy has been. You're doing amazing."
yeah. Yeah.
And then if they're like, "Actually, it's not been that bad," be like, "Oh, well, good. That's so amazing."
Right.
Or they can be like, "Thank you. I really needed to hear that,"
Yeah. Yeah. And I think we can definitely come alongside each other more, especially as women, right? Of like,
Yeah.
and also, I think I find myself more in this space when there's, like, two kids, like a woman's pregnant, and then there's a child. I find myself even seeing those more often. I'm just being like, love this. Like, even yet the other day, I went for a walk, and there was this couple, and it was a pretty newborn, maybe a couple of months old, and they were on a family walk. I was like, oh my gosh, a family walk! I love it. You guys deserve that. And I
Yeah.
I knew probably how much it took both of them to get out to go for a walk. It's the
Literally.
infancy stage, and like, were they like, oh my gosh, thank you so much? They were walking past, right? But those are the kind
Yeah.
of responses of like recognizing that those seasons are hard, those moments are hard, and just that encouragement versus
Yeah.
the objectifying or the, you know,
Yeah.
like looking at somebody and being like, wow, that thing. And also like, if you don't have anything that you think would be nice, don't say it, because
No,
it's not, it's your
it's not
words.
necessary.
Yes, your words are weapons
Yeah.
sometimes. And like, it's just not necessary.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think, like you said, they're. I love that you shared those examples, and I love that you're willing to just be honest about it because, again, I feel like, and I'm very interested to see your experience in postpartum and what you take from that and how that creates a toolkit and resources
Mm-hmm.
for you that you pull from, because that's something we have not even tapped into in women's
Mm-hmm.
health. It's insane.
Mm-hmm.
And I, even just like went to a couple of friends of mine recently, was like, hey, I just want you to know that you're amazing. Postpartum,
Yeah.
it may suck, but just, I'm here. Even if you just want to tell me that something's crazy and you want to bitch for a minute, like that's fine. Like you have
Yeah.
people, because what women that aren't pregnant potentially don't realize, and men might not realize because we haven't educated men in the masses about these things, is like
Mm-hmm.
so much of the hormones may not even present themselves as symptoms until it's
Yep.
too late, or
Yep.
until it turns into depression, right? And it
Yeah.
manifests itself differently. So I think just creating space for each other, whether it's during pregnancy or postpartum, and letting someone know that you're a safe space, that they can call
Mm-hmm.
you when they feel crazy or they feel like they're going nuts, but their mom guilt is creeping up and they feel bad that they're feeling bad. Like they need to know it's okay to say,
Yep.
I'm not okay,
Yep.
because normalizing that is how we help women in the core of being great moms, which then leads them to raising great children and helping,
Mhm.
produce the next level of this generation. But mom guilt is real. I know that that you have a lot of friends that have already had babies, and I think we just need to like desensitize mom guilt and like make it not a
Mhm.
thing. Like I'm champion
Mhm.
hashtag no mom guilt, because
Mhm.
it's going to already exist. So how can we that are not the mothers do our part to just eradicate it as best as we can?
Yeah, seriously. Well, and advocacy for yourself. Before I got pregnant, I did a ton of testing because I just was only having like a cycle every 5 to 10 times a year.
Yeah.
So I didn't even think if I could get pregnant. And then I found out that I had Hashimoto. Then I got pregnant, got it tested, and the place that I got it tested at said I didn't have it. And I'm not making up what I'm about to say. Literally, the PA came in. They were like, there's moms that look good pregnant and moms that don't. You look good. So we're not even going to do your testing and you're good to go. And I was like, oh, what? Like, what do you mean I look good? Like, I'm not swollen today, or like, what are you talking about? Like, that doesn't even make sense to me. And I was like, no, I came in here because my antibodies are elevated. And they're like, well, we didn't test for those this time because the first time they were fine. So long story short, it was a very quick interaction. Get back to the front desk. They're like, oh, like what time do you want to schedule your labs today? I'm like, I was told that I don't need to come back. I don't have Hashimoto because I look good as a pregnant person. And they're like, well, the PA has it here that you're supposed to get labs. I'm like, then go talk to them. They went to talk to him. The PA was like, oop, I accidentally pressed the wrong button. Like, we don't need to do labs. She's good to go. And I just was like, so, I had never been in a professional setting that unprofessional with something as serious as my
Mm.
health before. So then I reached out to an endocrinologist and they took me in, showed me my thyroid. As a matter of fact, I very much have Hashimoto. 40% of my right side of my thyroid is scar tissue, 70% of my left side is scar tissue. So I'm very close to needing medication because my thyroid is close to not working. And a lot of times, what will happen is that antibody levels will diminish when you're pregnant because the baby's cells actually go into the mother's body and heal parts of it that are
Wow.
like in need. So
Yeah.
Callie is helping me have, even though I still have elevated antibody levels, they're less than they were. But the endocrinologist was like, we do need to monitor you very closely because postpartum, as the hormones shift, which is also regulated through the thyroid, major changes can happen and it can get very serious very quickly. And it was so interesting to me. And this is why I tell this story. When I went to the endocrinologist, he did all his exams and they were very thorough. And he put his hand, he looked at me and he goes, do you think you have Hashimoto? And he said it just like that. And the way he said it made me think like, oh, this guy is just going to be another doctor to tell me like nothing's wrong, make me feel crazy. I was like, well, I mean, I was just told by a different doctor's office that I don't, but like, then I was told before I was pregnant that I do, and I don't feel normal. So like, yeah, I do think I do. And he put his hand on my shoulder. It could make me cry. And he looks at me, he goes, you very much have Hashimoto, and let me show you what's going on. And he basically was like, you know your body. Don't ever let another person, even in the medical field, make you question if something feels off, which tells me that he's seen this enough in pregnant moms to need to say that.
Yeah.
And that's when it all clicked for me. You always hear like advocacy during your pregnancy and blah, blah, blah. But like, no, it's real.
Yeah.
Because nobody's going to have your back the way that you do. And a female's instinct, especially when you're pregnant and becoming a mom, is on a whole different level.
Yeah.
And so talking about people pleasing and boundaries and all of that, I've had to learn ultimately my baby's health, which right now is also my health, has to be number one. And if something feels off, even if somebody in a white coat is telling you everything's fine, if it doesn't feel fine, you need to double down and make sure that you're advocating in a way that gets you the medical support that you need. Because had I not done that and something went astray in postpartum, I wouldn't have a doctor to go to,
Right.
which means I wouldn't be able to get the help that I need. And that's a really scary scenario to consider.
Wow. Gosh, thank you for sharing that. And I know that's going to really bless a lot of people and also just open their eyes up to just trust yourself, you know, like, and also I think trust yourself even prior to getting to the doctor's office. Trust yourself that something is wrong. I think so often, particularly with women, that we're like, well, we don't have time. I don't have time to go to the doctors. I don't have time to go get this checked. I don't have time to work out. I don't have time to eat right. Well, guess what? You can't afford not to have time. And so,
Yeah.
you know, just even before it gets to that extreme, advocate for yourself by treating your body well, taking care of it, right? And if the doctors come, then advocate, right? And just, you know, speak up. And if, and I was just talking about this with another guest of mine a couple weeks ago, of like, it is okay to advocate yourself. You don't have to tear the entire industry down with you. That is something that has really been infuriating me in this culture of like,
we're on the same page. I'm
literally,
so glad
you can say, hey, this isn't for me, but thank you so much, and go find someone else, and not have to demolish the entire building and hurt people in the process. I don't know why that's becoming a trend right now. Like, no matter what it is, whether it's like whether it's women's health or homeschooling or whatever, it's like, just because you choose to homeschool doesn't mean you need to tear down every single teacher that was called to educate in our public school system. Back off. Like, get it together. And same thing with health. Same thing with, I don't know, getting your tires fixed. It doesn't even matter what it is. Like, you can politely say thank you, but no thank you. I will go somewhere else. And you don't have to demolish it on the way out.
Yes, I agree. Because the same system that is providing me the support that I need is the same system that didn't. It's just two different offices.
Right.
And everything is super nuanced, you know? Right. So the all or nothing approach is hardly ever necessary, except for faith. That's it. And that's when you know it's like the truth. Because anything you can go all in with, like marriage, faith, family, that's when you know it's the solid truth.
One last question. That I just like want to know, because I kind of want to give him a minute, but like, how has your relationship with Troy going into this season and kind of coming into parenthood, like, how has that strengthened, and what do you feel like is something that the audience should hear, whether that they're maybe pregnant or navigating marriage or just getting married or something feels like I need to ask that question, and it wasn't written down. So this is a ad lib one.
I mean, I could literally sob just thinking about Troy. I am like so blessed to have him. We have been together since 2012, and I decided I wanted to become a mother last Mother's Day, and we were at a Mother's Day dinner with my parents. Troy gotten up to go to the bathroom. Mom had said something like, yeah, I'm just so glad you guys are never having kids because the state of the world and blah, blah, blah. And it like hit me like a dagger. And I put my hands on the table. I was like, I want to be a mom. And my parents' eyes were the size of golf balls, because like since 8 years old, my brother and I have been in the biggest fights about, he's like, well, who are my kids going to play with if you never have kids? I'm like, not mine, because I'm not having them. So it's just never been on our radar. So that night we were heading home. I'm like, look, Troy, I know we've been together for 12 years and we had always agreed not to have kids, but I think I'm having a change of heart and I totally respect if you're not on that same page and I will honor that. But I did want to mention it. And he goes, oh, yeah, I was just waiting for you to say that. He's like, I always knew you'd be a mom. It's like, what?
You waited 12 years to drop this.
I just dropped that. So we were pregnant by September, and I am not kidding you. Like, Troy is the most godly person that I've ever known, and yet for a very long time proclaimed that he did not know the Lord. He wasn't raised that way. He didn't fully comprehend it. After I have gotten pregnant, the Lord has gotten a hold of his heart in a way that I have never witnessed before. The level and degree to which he has stepped up as like the man of this household sends chills down my spine. And the way that God has tested him and pruned him to step into that and for him to not even resist it, but instead double down. I would say the biggest thing that I've learned is we're very different. And when there is like a heated situation, I tend to come across as the lion, and he tends to approach more from the standpoint of the lamb. Troy is a lion. He comes across as a lamb. I am a lamb. I come across as a lion. I think I'm a lot more scary. And then I go to like do my calls out and it's like,
There's nothing.
lamb.
Yeah.
Whereas like
you're declawed lion. That's what you are.
Yeah, exactly. Like I'm like, oh no, this isn't scary anymore. But Troy comes out as the lamb and he can like show one little like finger and it's like, oh my gosh. I think the biggest thing that I've learned is as the female, I'm going to do things a certain way. And as the male, and I know that this is so nuanced and people could debate and blah, blah, blah. For the dynamics of our relationship, that aspect of the way our masculine and feminine show up within ourselves is very different. I used to judge him for not showing up the way that I would show up in a situation. He never once judged me for showing up in situations that he wouldn't show up that way in.
Wow.
And I have, through discernment and patience in this process of being pregnant, learned how much I can actually trust him and rest in him because he is patient and takes in all of the information. And it will take him a lot to respond in the way that, like, what I would think would be necessary. But when he does one little thing, it shakes whatever needs to be shaken to the ground all the way to the ground. And so I've learned through my pregnancy, his process is not like my process. It does not look like my process. And at times I didn't trust it. But now I trust him tenfold because I understand that the way he's doing things, though different than me, get an outcome that may even be better than what mine would have been if I had done it my way. And I think that's really important to understand. Like, there's going to be little things, obviously, that like I'm very attention to detail and I'm going to be like, we don't hold the baby like that. And this is how we bathe her. And this is how we do the diapers and whatever. But like the big emotional stuff, he is so clutch in that at first I didn't think he really understood. And now I realize, no, he understands sometimes on a level better than even me.
You.
He just holds his cards in a way that I think he's not even aware.
Yeah, he's like when he says yes, he says like YES all capitalized underscore.
Yeah, and it's felt. Like he's the type of person that walks in the room and says the thing that needs to be said and it just cuts through everything. And his one word or one sentence can account for my paragraph. And I've really learned to respect it, cherish it, learn from it, and be so thankful like that's the leader of our household. And I don't think I would have fully understood that had I not gone through this journey.
I love that. And I also love there's redemption in that too, because God has had you in a season of betrayal and mistrust and giving of yourself in a way that like burned yourself. And God was also waiting to show you like, no, I put you with someone that is going to redeem that trust. That's going to redeem that betrayal in a way that only matters. The rest of it doesn't. Right.
Wow. Yeah. Yep. Amen to that.
Yeah. There's some drop the mic moments on the Brittany Wheeler show, and sometimes they just come from me. And sometimes it's, a lot of people are like, "Gosh, this was like a therapy session. I didn't even know that I needed it."
You're so good at what you do, and you're so intentional with the spirit of who you lead onto this show. And I'm just really excited to witness like all the directions that this grows. And I hope that you get poured into as much as you pour into others, because you really do a good job of holding space for your guests. Um, and I hope that you get that same space held for you as well.
Thank you. Thank you. I hope so too. And I, I get a lot from interviews. When there is something really powerful about stepping outside of your own pain, your own challenging, your own like discomfort to serve someone else, that in return, God will say, we got you. And that ends up filling me. So on days where maybe it's challenging for me to record, or I'm not feeling like it, or whatever, there's only really one time I've ever actually like postponed a recording, because I'm so confident that when I push through the discomfort and I come out there to serve someone else, the Spirit just fulfills me and equips me. And then I end up just receiving at the same time. And that's what, today's another example of that, of just like, just showing up for people, and it's beautiful. So I want
to, thank you.
You're so welcome. I want to end with 2 lifestyle questions. Okay. I'm interested to know. Maybe I know your answer to the first one, but what is your favorite coffee shop or drink drink place in the Wilmington area, and what's your go-to order?
Okay, this is tough because we have so many good ones. Is it okay if I have a tie?
Yeah, go ahead. This is the Brittany Wheeler show. I get to say what happens.
Casa Blanca. Casa Blanca and Drift.
Love it. Very cool.
And I get the iced vanilla oat milk latte, most of the time decaf. But I just love the atmosphere. I love the heart of the owners that built it. And I think everything that they create is with so much love. And you can feel that when you ingest their things.
Very sweet. Good answers.
Yeah.
Okay. What book is a book that you've read multiple times that you believe someone needs to read?
Oh, gosh. Well, this is going to sound so ridiculous. And you can ask Troy, but I'm not much of a book reader. I wish I was. But the one book that I read, it's the only book I read, is the Bible. And I think that people need to read it. It is insane. It has everything in it that you could imagine. Get a study Bible that you can understand, especially if you like wrestle with God or faith or Jesus or whatever. That book is so epic. It has every element that you could ever need. And at first you'll start it and you'll be like, what does this mean? Or gosh, God is so harsh or whatever. And by the end of it, you're completely transformed. Yeah. You are completely transformed. And it's a book that I think if everyone intentionally read and really let it hit their heart, we would live in a world that people would want to see.
For sure. I believe that. And I also agree with that wholeheartedly. Thank you for being on the show.
Thank you for having me. It's been such an honor, and I hope your listeners enjoy this. And I'm so thankful for this opportunity. So thank you.
You're welcome. This is so great. Before we wrap up, I want to know, where can people find you? Where can they find the businesses? Because it's a wellness mega, right? Of multiple ways that they can be involved. So yeah, share that, and I'll put it in the show notes so that people can check it out.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, so it's Emotion Yoga Pilates Bar and Emotion Fitness. We are on Military Cutoff, right near Nikki Sushi, across the road from Fresh Market. And we also have a beach location right behind Adapt Kitchen. That's another one that I really love.
They do have really good poke. Really good
poke. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. They do it a Hawaiian style.
After I have Cali, I'm getting the Fuego Bowl, or Fuego Bowl, whatever it's called. Fuego Bowl. It's so good. But yeah, we offer a wide variety of fitness and studio classes. And our mission is to heal, connect, inspire the world through unconditional love. We're really intentional about the classes that we offer, and we love our community, and we'd love to see all of you. And your first class is on us. So once you register, you can register with the Buddy Pass and take your first class on the house. So I hope people will check it out.
I love that. Thank you for sharing that. And so people can find you. And honestly, thank you for talking about nothing that I planned on talking about, because it was so much better. It literally just, I was like, okay, I see that this is going nowhere that I planned, but it's so much better. It was so good, so good. And we talked about some really powerful things that I know that women and men both need to hear. So thank you so much. And I will put all that information in the show notes. You guys follow us, subscribe on this YouTube channel. Share this episode. You know, our goal is to bless one person every episode by you sharing. Somebody needs to hear what Macy had to say. Somebody, I think many somebodies, but I'll just, if every person shares with one person, just will grow the reach. It's just God only works in multiplication, you guys. He doesn't work in addition. And that's how I function, is multiplication. So let's multiply this out. Follow us on Instagram, TikTok, write a review. If you have nothing good to say, don't say it at all. That's the theme of this episode. So don't write a bad review, because I don't have time for them. And as always, do good things, make me proud, and we'll see you next time. Bye, everybody.